One popular idea, which has been floating around, is that there is no such thing as a single, correct way or a proper technique of striking the tennis ball. All because each of us is a unique individual, very special and different from the others. That striking techniques are somewhat like a tailor-made suit, which must only be fitted to each individual separately. No such thing as a universal standard could even be contemplated. And in the end, all of these custom techniques would be equally good and would be equally praiseworthy. What a perfectly fraudulent idea. But, in this age of unbridled narcissism and self-absorption, it was an easy sell, and it is not at all surprising that a great number of people have eagerly embraced these bogus ideas. Some of them because they are simply delusional, and actually do fancy themselves to be something extremely special, very unique, and beyond any reproach. And the others because they find the environment where the standards are loose and the requirements are ambiguous to be very convenient for concealing their ignorance and complete incompetence. Well, I am quite certain that it will not sit well with all those who one way or another have bought into all this bullshit. But in athletics, the best results would always be attained not with the help of self-expression or self-deception, but with objective, cold-blooded calculations and common sense. In athletics, the human body is used as a tool, and while this tool has a substantial range of capabilities, it also has a great number of limitations. The technical challenge of all athletic endeavors comes down to one thing only, that is, to figuring out how to apply this quote-unquote tool, with all its natural limitations, to a very narrowly defined set of tasks which are put in front of an athlete, like throwing, striking, running, or jumping, etc. Those who will employ their bodies in the most efficient manner, meaning, as much as it's humanly possible, fully utilizing all its mechanical capabilities, while at the same time avoiding its natural limitations and weaknesses, will ultimately have a decisive advantage in any kind of contest. Whether you like physics or not, that is what ultimately will rule on the tennis court. Its laws apply equally to everyone, regardless of their individuality or the lack of it, and these laws will not be denied. Only those who wisely remain within these laws' boundaries will be rewarded with the best results, and the nitwits who think that they are special and can spit against the wind will get only what they deserve. A good tennis stroke does not begin when the ball meets the strings. It begins with the stance, or a posture, which the player assumes just before striking the ball, and from which the whole striking action is launched. It is this stance which is mainly responsible for the stroke being either effortless and consistent, or strenuous and erratic. Here is that posture which all the best ball strikers would employ. The feet are firmly planted and are ready to push off the ground. the torso is tilted and turned. Given enough room to be thrown upward and around, which will create a great deal of kinetic momentum. The arm is held at some distance away from the torso, which will allow it to be swung out and be propelled by the momentum of the torso and the centrifugal force of its rotation. Everything is in its right place, aimed, set, and ready to go. All that you need to get an excellent stroke is the starting gun. This posture plays a critical role in the production of a sound tennis stroke. Exactly the same role as the sprinter's posture at the start of the race. At the start of each race, regardless of their individuality, all runners will do exactly the same thing. They plant their fingers right on the starting line, stick the feet into the blocks, and raise their butts way up into the air. Only from such position, he or she will take off and start running. All these tiresome preparations are being done for the very practical reasons, and only a complete idiot would suggest doing it any differently. There is never any talk in track and field about so-called modern versus vintage running techniques. But, curiously enough, the world of tennis seems to be awash in such ludicrous and meaningless discussions. Under the banner of modernity, progress, and self-expression, the hordes of self-appointed biomechanical experts shamelessly disseminate utter absurdities about open and closed stances, WTA versus ATP strokes, effortless power, elastic energy, kinetic chains, and God only knows what else. The insidious effect of all that nonsense on the minds of general population could be clearly seen on the professional tour, which looks more like a motley crew of bad contortionists, each with an original number, who on the average are capable of keeping the ball in play for no longer than 3 strokes. These are the examples of their starting stances. Each one is unique in its own way. The placement of these players' feet can be only described as clueless. Their torsos are fully upright or leaning backward. The arms are tightly wrapped around the torso, and the weight of the body is God only knows where. From such precarious positions, it is simply impossible to thrust the torso in any meaningful direction. So the torso remains stagnant and utterly useless, unable to move, let alone to generate any kinetic momentum. Just try to assume those positions yourself, and you will quickly discover what I mean. Inside this self-imposed quote-unquote straitjacket, when the torso is fully immobilized by the feet position and its own orientation, the muscles of the arms and the shoulders remain the only means of swinging the racket. And that is exactly what these players end up using. They along with their biomechanically inclined coaches, don't seem to be troubled in the least that such complex, delicate, fragile, and by far the weakest mechanical assemblies in the human body were never meant to be used as the drivers of such rough and repetitive tasks as pounding the tennis balls. Well, maybe all the bandages, injuries, and surgeries that you see on the tennis tour these days will serve as a subtle reminder that in the world where the laws of physics rule, such stupidity never goes unpunished.